evening. It is time to take the right stand, ladies and gentlemen. A right stand against the atrocities committed by China on its own people and also on territories that it has occupied, annexed for over decades now, many decades now, at least a half a century. But they continue to target them, and what they are doing is what experts call demographic genocide. Tonight, here on the right stand, we're going to get you visuals, and that's what is the exclusive here. Not just visuals, but witnesses. Those who have suffered at the hands of Chinese atrocities and those who have also seen it. They're also going to join us and take the right stand tonight. And that's the reason why this is a special edition on... Let's have a look at these visuals. The visual I'm just going to walk across. These are visuals from inside one of the many concentration camps. Our investigations editor, Manoj Gupta, getting us these visuals and access to these visuals. This was all part of the State Council's try and anti-China propaganda or to try and counter what the world was saying about the Chinese, but it's just boomerang. Now look at this. These are all youngsters, youth, largely all of them Uyghurs, who are being brainwashed literally. Just for some of them have been put into these camps for 3 years, 4 years and into these detention centers just because they downloaded a video which was against the Communist Party of China, because they backed a leader who raised their voice against atrocities being committed. And this is an ethnic group of Uyghurs. And we will try and play out some of the voices and what they are saying, and please do read the translations on those sound bites in just a short bite, which will itself give you a hint as to what they were coming. Now, even in these visuals, you see the way they are being watched like hawks, and there will be those who will be now pointing out to their watches and saying, don't talk to them, don't ask them any more questions. That visual will come through, and we'll also show what is being put out on the board. See, everybody is being monitored and watched in all their mobile phones, in the entire Xinjiang province. People can buy a mobile phone and they can operate it only if they have an app which allows the Chinese government, the CCP and the PLA to monitor them 24/7. That's a brazen invasion of their privacy. They're not allowed to read the Quran. They cannot even say Walaikum Assalam. They're not allowed to maintain hold fast during the Ramadan. The entire Turkic Muslims there are being brainwashed into saying goodbye to Islam and only worship the Chinese communist ideology and the Chinese Communist Party. That's what's being taught to them. This is the propaganda that's being pushed. Listen into some of these voices from inside these camps. What the Chinese thought is going to counter the world's position against their atrocities they were committing has actually boomeranged. And we'll get you a voice in Olsi Jazexhi joining us, a Canadian-Albanian historian who's been to one of these camps. He'll be joining us on the other side. But first, quickly, listening to what some of them were saying.
What is your mistake? Why you ended up here?
说是在下载那个非法音频关于什么的？那个当年干过是一小组，是有叫很多是内容的非法音频。非法学经班，因为那个原因来到这儿的。
毕业之后在这边，毕业之后在家继续做那个自由唱歌妈妈，但是那个妈妈不愿意我跟她吵架。
Now she prays.
那你现在还做奶妈子吗？
现在
回家呢？
What is your name? I'm saying.
名字？
Bismillah.
我叫凯撒。
凯撒。
Your son.
Caesar。
Where are you from?
你从哪里来？家在哪？
我家在温宿温山。
Are you Uyghur or what nationality?
你是维吾尔族还是维吾尔？
Why you ended up here?
我以前登录那非法网站观看下载非法意识并传播嘛，然后我对有那些排汉反汉的思想，就是歧视辱骂那些抽烟喝酒的汉族人，还强迫家人跟汉族人来往，自己也戒烟戒酒。
Why did you end up here?
我以前多次从网上下载并观看宣扬宗教极端思想内容的非法音视频，然后多次在公共场所做礼拜，然后跟他人一起说听，维吾尔族要做奶妈子，不做奶妈子的人是异教徒，他们死了以后下地狱。 做奶妈子的人上天堂等内容的非法音频，因为这些原因。
Joining us now is Olsi Jazekhi. He is, and I hope I pronounced his name correctly, he is a Canadian-Albanian historian who was denied an opportunity to teach in Albania under Chinese pressure. He's somebody who's traveled to this entire East Turkestan province Olsi, hi, thank you so much. My name is Anand and thank you for taking the time out. We've been able to access some of these videos and I've been reading about it, but we've been able to finally access, and it's time the world takes notice of what China has been, committing and doing. And as I have read and educated myself, I have realized that they have systematically practiced this demographic genocide over the last few decades, reducing the minority population, be it in Manchuria, Little Mongolia, Tibet, and even East Turkestan. Olsi, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you for having me on the show. I have visited Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China on August of 2019 because I've seen so many reportings over the internet about what China is doing with its Muslim population of East Turkestan or Xinjiang. And in a way, I was a bit suspicious about what we see coming out of China. And for this reason, I contacted our Chinese friends here in Tirana, Albania. And I told to them that I'm a historian and I'm a journalist as well. And I told them that I'm interested to know by myself the reality of Muslims of Xinjiang. So from August 16th to 25th of 2019, I was in Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China. I was invited by the State Council Information Office of China in Xinjiang. And we were a group of journalists who went to Xinjiang in order to understand what was going on. Of course, our invitation, which we were paid by the Chinese government, was made in order as a part of the public relation campaign that China does to convince the world that things
Were you convinced? What did you find there?
Well, when we first went to Urumqi and we saw the massive development of the region, so we were impressed and we thought that things should be found there. Xinjiang is much more developed than Kashmir that you have in India, and economically the development was very impressive. Nevertheless, the thing that drew our attention was that the region was being colonized and ruled by Han Chinese, people who were coming from other provinces of China, and they had taken over this province which borders India, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. When we visited Urumqi, which is the capital of Xinjiang, we were delivered a number of lectures by a number of communist officials and historians, people like Xu Guingjian, Ma Pingyang, and others, who delivered to us the white papers of the Chinese government regarding Xinjiang. What we were told, and the thing that shocked us a lot, was that number one, the Chinese were treating the whole Himalayan and Central Asian regions that they ruled as being always ruled by Han Chinese. But as a matter of fact, what we understood when we visited the museums of Urumqi, Aksu, and Kashgar, from the historical perspective, this was an area that had been historically inhabited by Indo-Europeans and Turkic people.
Yes.
So,
frankly, they used to speak Sanskrit there. About 5 to 6 centuries ago, they used to speak Sanskrit there, and a lot of the culture was very similar to this entire region, because all of this used to be one particular as part of the old Silk Route. But what did you see now? When you interacted with the locals?
Yeah, I mean, when we were seeing the mummies and the old crafts and others, we saw that this region has historically been inhabited by Indo-Europeans. You could see people with beards, and you didn't have Han Chinese who are without beards.
Correct.
And so the Chinese were trying, in a way, to manipulate the history and to convince the local inhabitants. For example, if you go in Kashgar, you will feel yourself like you are in Lahore, Pakistan,
Yeah.
or you are in Srinagar. I mean, people look very similar to the
Yeah.
Indian Muslims of the subcontinent. So number one, the Chinese, what they were doing, they were trying to erase the history of this region, and they were trying to show as if this region was historically part of the Han Chinese civilization and not part of the Indo-European civilization. But number two, the thing that shocked us was that the Chinese, apart from destroying totally the native culture of these people and buildings and civilization, and apart from colonizing it with Han Chinese, like they're doing in the borders between India and China, where they are bringing Han Chinese. On the other hand, they were particularly angry with the cultural identity of the Uyghurs. Uyghurs are the overwhelming majority of them. They are Muslim. And in the white papers that the Chinese government delivered to us, they were showing Islam as a foreign religion, which was forcefully imposed by the Arabs, who were shown as primitives, and by the Turks on the Muslims of Xinjiang. The official narrative that the white papers of the Chinese government, but also the museums of Aksu, Kashgar, were delivering to us was that the original religion of Xinjiang has been Buddhism, and now the Uyghurs must revert back to Buddhism in order to join the Chinese, Han Chinese civilization. But the thing that shocked us the most, which was in a way a breaking point between us as journalists and the Chinese government, was when we visited the concentration camps, videos which you showed, which were filmed by me with my phone when I was in there. Now, because the Chinese government is very worried by what the international community is saying about its treatment of Uyghur Muslims, they are telling to the world that we don't have concentration camps in Xinjiang, but we have vocational training centers. So they sent us into these centers, and the aim of our Chinese friends was to film some Uyghurs who sing and dance, and when we would come out of China, to tell to the world that there are no concentration camps, but these are some schools where these Uyghurs are being sent in order to educate themselves. Even the concept of these schools was very racist. I mean, according to the Communist Party of China, the Indo-European and Turkic Muslims of Xinjiang, they are not civilized enough, and now it is the burden of the Chinese man to civilize these people. And for the Chinese Communist Party officials, the major problem that they were having with the Uyghurs was Islam. They were depicting Islam as an extremist religion. The Uyghur Autonomous Region, they have even a law called the Regulation on De-Extremification. So by extremism, the Communist Party of China, they call Islam.
Olsi, I have limited time, so because there's another angle and dimension, I request you to stay on with me, because this hatred, this racism and what they're doing, there is also another dynamic to it. And I have, he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2017, Ethan Gutmann, investigative writer and journalist, also joining us. I'm just going to show to our viewers, this is another dimension which nobody talks about. Have a look at this. This is the human organs harvesting. Where is the OIC? And where is the UNHRC, and do they not know? Have a look at this. 60,000 to 100,000 organs are harvested in a year in China. It's a $1 billion plus market where you can actually, in 2 weeks, in less than 2 weeks, book an organ for you. Pre-book an organ. The world knows this, and there is no action taken against the Chinese. The harvesting centers, there are 700 plus hospitals like this, and Like I said, in less than 2 weeks, there are 700 plus hospitals and 100% organ transplantation happens. And military hospitals, PLA hospitals are being used. They're the biggest contributors, and majority of the organs are extracted by coercion. Falun Gong practitioners who are quite literally wiped out, Uyghurs, Tibetans, these are whom they are being murdered brutally for organ harvesting. And that too, this is from prisoners when alive or post-execution and from these concentration camps. This is what is happening. I'm going to go quickly across to Ethan Goodman, who's also joining us. Ethan, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us. May I please ask you, the slaughter is what you have written, you've chronicled and you've watched China strongly. Is it time the world takes note of this and makes China pay for their atrocities? How is it that the UNHRC nations are looking the other way? Thank you so much.
Well, it's well past time. I mean, these results have been out for quite a while, and just a year ago they were ratified by the London China Tribunal, which was headed by Sir Geoffrey Nice, who is arguably the greatest human rights prosecutor in the world today. It is particularly past time because my current estimate, and this is based on interviews that I did in Kazakhstan this year, just before the COVID-19 crisis came in, is that about 25,000 at a minimum, 25,000 Uyghurs at a minimum are being harvested for their organs every year. And this has been going on, I believe, since 2016, certainly in 2017, 2018, 2019, and we are now approaching the 100,000 mark.
100,000 Uyghurs being harvested, their organs are being harvested, but this is clearly being done against their will. Where is this happening? Have you been able to find that out?
That is very difficult. I mean, one of the hardest part is the logistics. The Chinese, you quoted some figures earlier, and yes, they were correct. The 60 to 100,000, that's our work. Me and David Kilgore and David Matus from Canada. The fact is, the Chinese, you can do this once, and you can't do it again. So, in other words, it's very hard to find out the volume right now. It's very hard to find out the transportation nodes. But we know that two airports in particular are being used to transport organs over to the East Coast. So those airports would be Urumqi and Kashgar. And why do we know it? Because they actually have human organ fast lanes in the airports. And when I first saw the pictures of this, I thought this is a Photoshop. It's made up or something. No, Japanese tourists have taken pictures of the same human organ fast lanes. This is amazing stuff. Now, the market for this is huge. We have organ tourists from across the world who are coming over to Tianjin Central Hospital, Wuxi Hospital, Beijing 309, all these massive hospitals, the biggest transplant hospitals in the world. And the organs are high quality because they are taken out while the person is still alive. Of course, they die in the process. But the organs are taken out. They're very fresh. They're kept alive through a process called ECMO, which oxygenates the organs. And so you can keep them going for about these organs for sometimes 16 hours before you transplant. That's a huge advantage or a huge advance in the logistics of this thing.
True.
These people who are being harvested are worth potentially $500,000. $500,000 US in every case, because they are, the lungs are about $150,000 each. The heart's $150,000, sort of a seasonal price. Liver is usually $100,000 or $110,000. Kidneys, $60,000, $50,000, somewhere in there, and even the corneas, which can go for $10,000, $20,000 apiece to foreign organ tourists. Obviously, Chinese pay a lot less.
Well, Olsi, thank you so much for joining us, because I'm going to take this forward along with another Uyghur activist who's joining us this evening, along with Einar Tangen. And Ethan, I'd request you to please stay on, because Einar Tangen is a political affairs commentator joining us from Beijing. Olsi, you've been there at Urumqi, and they're saying there are fast lanes for human organs. and it's Uyghurs, 25,000 Uyghurs every year who are being harvested, whose organs are being harvested and brazenly being done. Ilshad Hassan Kokbor, director of the World Uyghur Congress Chinese Affairs Department, will be joining us this evening. We also have Ethan staying on with us and Einar Tangen joining us. I'm just going to check the moment Ilshad Hassan is there with Ishad is there joining us. The moment he's through, we'll go across to him. Mr. Ethan Goodman, I just want to come back to you and ask you this. How is it that the world has turned its back? Because you cannot pre-book an organ. You wait long because organ donation is done, transplant happens via donation. Here, if you can pre-book your organs and for the price, for the sums that you have said, there have to be sanctions against China. How is China allowing this? And it's happening in military hospitals.
Well, what's happened really is a breakdown. The real culprit here has not been the political side. It's been on the medical side. You see, the world, when the London China Tribunal came out, one of the first things, one of the first responses we got was from the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
And they basically, the World Health Organization,
well, I'm just going to try and go back to Ethan Goodman in just a bit. Ilshad Hassan Kokbor, I'm just going to check if he's through with us. Director of the World Uyghur Congress. Einar Tangen is with us. Einar Tangen, some videos that have come in from the Xinjiang province. Ethan Goodman making a strong allegation against China as to what is happening with organ harvesting. About 25,000 Uyghurs every year is the allegation. As an investigative writer, he's making. Your response? People being told that
Goodman is, and I don't know the basis on which he's making that accusation. And I would be surprised as something that egregious would have been in the newspapers, on the news, worldwide, consistently. So without knowing him or what he's saying, I would say that it's highly doubtful. First off, let's take a little look at what we're dealing with here. He's saying that 25,000 people are being harvested. Where do they come from? Where are they disappearing to? Why are they being reported? And are these people? I have no idea where he's talking now. So even if they were doing that, how would they get these organs out of Xinjiang?
He's saying no.
How would they do that?
There is a
Who's
fast lane for
it?
human organs transplant at the Urumqi airport. He's saying, Ethan is live with us, and he's saying Urumqi airport and at Kashgar there are fast lanes for human organ organs. There's a fast lane there.
Well,
so how are
that's
these
an
fast
absolute
lanes?
lot of crap. I've been to those airports. No, I never saw anybody
Ethan, he says it's a love of crap.
Transplant.
Would you want to respond to Einar here? Einar is joining us from
Sounds like
Beijing.
sensationalist stuff. Why hasn't this been reported before? Do you think people wouldn't notice if there was a fast lane for organ transplant? I mean,
the
come
pictures
on.
are.
This is beneath even any kind of sensationalist type of.
Sir, he's a Nobel
reporting.
Peace Prize nominee in 2017. He's an investigative writer who's written it and chronicled it in his book, and he's there live with us. Let him respond. Yes, Ethan, go ahead, please.
Yes, I mean, first of all, the pictures are real, and that's been established. And actually, within the academic Uyghur community, this is widely accepted now. The fact is, my estimates are based on extensive interviews, very, very long interviews that I did in Almaty only with refugees from the camps. Now, they all came from different camps, but they all described the same pattern. There are two types of people who disappear. Some are 18, and those graduate. They go to, basically, they go off to work as slave labor in various companies. Usually in the East. The other group is aged usually about 29, 28 years old. Do you know what the average age that the Chinese medical establishment prefers to harvest at? It is 28. It is 28 because your organs have reached maturity, but your body has not started to deteriorate.
Yeah.
In other words, the organs are at a perfect state.
Yeah.
Now, those people disappear in the middle of the night. And the figures that I got from, again, every witness was from a different camp, but the figures were remarkably similar. They were about 2.5% disappearances or 5% disappearances. There was some difference from case to case. In some of the camps, which were only Kazakhs, no one disappeared. But those are the outliers. Most of this is Uyghurs, And these witnesses have no reason to lie about such a thing. And they didn't even know what I was asking about, really. They were just talking about disappearances. They're very observant people.
Right.
So I do find it offensive that someone could call this kind of a pack of lies without ever talking to a single witness from country who has been in the camps. This is essential. As long as we keep taking refugee testimony and throwing it out and going with Chinese documents, we will never get anywhere. Imagine if we worked that way with COVID-19. It would be ludicrous.
We should not call it COVID-19. We should call it the Wuhan virus first up. That's the first change that we need to make. We need to call it the Wuhan virus. We need to let the world remember the origins are from China, and it is from a place called Wuhan, which is in China, and it should be called the Wuhan virus. And I say it very openly, the world should start calling it Wuhan virus. Because if you can call it the Spanish flu or the Hanta virus, why can't you call it the Wuhan virus? Now, Ishad Kokbore is also with us.
Your ignorance about the Spanish flu is amazing. It wasn't from Spain.
No,
that's the irony.
However it is, but you still call it the Spanish flu, right? But this is from China, from Wuhan, and we still call it COVID-19 and not the Wuhan virus, Mr. Tangen. But I've got Ishad Kokbor with us. Ishad, thank you so much. He is the director of the World Uyghur Congress, Chinese Affairs Department. Now, I have Ethan Gutman. I spoke to Olsi Jazexhi, who also shared with us some videos of these camps where youth are being taken to brainwash so that they forget about Islam. They don't say Walaikum Assalam. They then start only talking about CCP, and then they are brainwashed to think that they are inferior till the time they become Buddhist and accept the Han culture.
Yes, that's the true reality in East Turkestan now. Personally, I have 3 sisters, and since my elder sister was arrested in 2014, I have no any news about them. I don't know if she is still alive. What I heard the last message is yes, last year, one of the Kazakh called from Kazakhstan. She told me she was released in 2018, October, and she saw my 2 sisters in one concentration camp with whole their family, husband and daughters. And that's only I know about my family and my mother. Since I lost contact 2015 around August, since then I don't know if my mother is still alive or she is in jail or in concentration camp. That's the real truth. And each time when I have a 6-year-old daughter, she born in here in the United States, and when each time she asks me where is my grandma, where is my grandpa, because also my wife lost contact with her family, we can't answer that very, very simple human question. That's the Uyghur facing.
Einar Tangen, now please tell me. I have an Uyghur, I have an investigative writer, we had a historian, and now you're saying that all of them are lying. Are you saying all of them are lying, sir?
No, I'm saying that you've created a show in which you want to demonize China, and you're certainly free to do that. That's a free press in India. But, you know, let's look at this from the light of day. The gentleman who just speaking is a member of the he was a member of an independence movement for what he calls Turkestan and what China calls Xinjiang. If his family sympathizes with his views, which they probably do, I don't know, you can ask him, yes, then they would be sent to not a re-education camp to get skills, also to make sure that they weren't trying to actively participate in terrorist activities.
Right. So, but
I think
Ishad respond.
My mother is 80 years old. She was worked for the government all her life. Do you think 80 years old grandma is with me in the ideologically? It's insane.
I have no idea, sir.
What is the Uyghur Autonomous Region is the first test of one country, 2 system in your country, in your government. It is called Uyghur Autonomous Region.
It's not my government.
Where's the autonomous? And now we are witnessing the Hong Kong with the one country, 2 system. Where is the one country, 2 system? Did you guys keep any
There's no
promise?
such thing as one
Your-
country, two
your
systems when it
government-
comes to the
your
autonomous
government
region. You're
is
under,
keep
it's under
lying.
a different type of
And
law.
in
You're not the
Cultural
equivalent of Hong Kong
Revolution,
It's-
or
in
Macau.
1966, you had concentration camps. Few years back, you guys acknowledged it in the Cultural Revolution. You had concentration camps. It's called the Jabiango.
You keep
It's
saying
called
you
the
guys, but I'm an American.
But you can't
No, but
acknowledge
Mr.
that.
Tangen,
You
Mr.
are
Tangen-
barely saying lie.
Mr. Tangen, the simple point is that if China has committed these atrocities, then it has to account for them. It cannot wish it away. It cannot say that no, it is no big deal.
That's not the question.
Is it true?
The issue is,
Are these
have
people?
these atrocities been committed? You
Have
keep
the
saying
Uyghurs
they
been
are.
told?
You
Have
keep
the
bringing
Uyghurs been
people
told that those who
say they
practice
have been
Islam are
committed? Where is the proof?
uncivilized? Are the Uyghurs being told that those who practice Islam are uncivilized? Are the Uyghurs being told that unless you marry and into the Han race, and unless you stop practicing your leave your culture and your traditions, you cannot survive? Is that
Well, you keep saying that, but that's not the case.
That's
the
what.
idea of
That's
trying
not
to
me, sir.
intermarry,
As a news journalist, television journalist based in India, I'm listening to something like that from
That
Ethan.
is the case. 非我族类，其心必异. That's your culture. If you are not my nation, you are my enemy.
Why do you keep saying your culture? I'm not Chinese.
Yes,
Well,
you
all right.
have to acknowledge it.
Okay, gentlemen,
American.
gentlemen, we'll take this story forward. I thank you, Ethan Gutman, Aina Tangen, and Ishad Hassan Kokbor. Thank you very much. We put out the truth one by one, day by day. We will put out the truth here on the Right Stand as to what all China has been up to, demographically cleansing all the minorities around its borders, around its regions, which it has annexed, acquired over the last century. That's the reality. We would look at Manchuria, Little Mongolia, you look at East Turkestan, Tibet. This is what they've been doing systematically, and we will expose them time and again. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, it's 1 month since the Galwan attack. What has changed in the last 30 days? And what next? Stay with us.